It's really a pleasure to be speaking to you again. Since January, I had the pleasure of speaking to Labour in your constituency, to your LCPs. A lot of water has passed under the bridge since I last spoke to you, both choppy and still water. A lot of water has passed under the Labour bridge too, but we will get to that. First, let me also have a moment to thank the organizers that have been in touch with us and have been really a source of inspiration for the work they do, Marlene Kendall and Chris Easton. And let me also thank you all here tonight for your steadfast support of the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian struggle, and human rights in general. I am following with inspiration and gratitude. And I think, my friends, it is often forgotten that Palestinians have never wanted anything more or less than the fulfillment of our human rights equal to all other people in this world. To this end, we struggle. To this end, we wait. And to this end, we will eventually arrive with you. So thank you for all your continued support on this journey from Hexham to Brighton, to Glasgow, Manchester. Wherever I go, I see the strength of the base of Labour, of the base and the public opinion of the United Kingdom. And nothing gives me more empowerment than this realization every day. Now, this is a long journey, my friends. It has been a long journey, much longer than it should be. We have had many setbacks, and at moments, I would suggest we are at some kind of inflection point. What happens now, in other words, will to a large extent determine what kind of future we face. So this moment is absolutely critical and crucial. It will not alter the fundamental facts on the ground. In historic Palestine, we have a situation in which half the total population does not enjoy the same rights as the other half. As you all know, the unequal reality must change one way or another, simply because it is unsustainable. And you have seen the events of only 4 months ago in May all over Palestine. You've seen the unity of the Palestinian people, the unity of our purpose, and the unity of our destination, the unity of our struggle. Indeed, apartheid is recognized as a crime against humanity, my friends. And whether or not this country, the United Kingdom or other countries at this moment recognizes Israel as an apartheid system or not, numerous Palestinian, Israeli, and international human rights organizations do. Facts are facts. Eventually, just as in South Africa, my friends, this will change. It has got to change. The UK's position will change, and so will the world's. The question is when, not if. And what reality faces us at that point? This is the question that we are thinking about. So yes, I am an optimist. I must admit, I must plead guilty of optimism. I am an optimist when I see the Labour rank and file, you, pass a historic motion on the floor of the Labour conference last month, condemning Israel's ongoing Nakba catastrophe against the Palestinian people and calling for a banning of all settlement products because Israel's illegal settlements activities in the occupied territory directly contravenes with international law. I am an optimist when I see this motion call for an arms embargo and recognize the injustice Israel's form of apartheid is doing to the Palestinian people. I am optimistic when I see Labour members call for and vote for the immediate enactment of the 2018 decision by the Labour Conference to recognize a Palestinian state immediately. So thank you, my friends. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for, I know some of you have voted for this motion, the LCPs among you. So the Palestinian people are grateful for your very principled position, your unwavering support, your strong belief in your values, in the Labour values, in the universal values, in the international universal values. And this is progress. For us, this is progress. no matter how the Labour leadership has responded. And let me say a few words here about that. Now, I am obviously not going to get into the internal politics. Let me just say that the Labour Party is a set of values for us. This is who you are. You are a set of values, of principles, of ethos, of ethics, a set of values that we share. We share, I share, our people share. These values are very well defined, enshrined in your party since its foundation. It is equality and fairness, justice, law in the service of everyone, the protection and support of the weakest and most vulnerable, the promotion and preservation of human rights globally, and solidarity with the oppressed everywhere. This is Labour. This is who we are. Those are Labour values. And whatever the leadership may have determined for the time being, those are the values that the Palestinian struggle seek to uphold and fulfill. And thank you for upholding your values only a couple of weeks ago. And my friends, I am an optimistic, but not a dreamer, I must admit. I am not a dreamer. And it is clear that without consequences for its actions, Israel has no intention or even incentive of ending its illegal practices, policies, occupation, the colonization, the apartheid, or even respecting the rights of the Palestinian people to freedom, self-determination, to lives of dignity and security and protection. Israel has had plenty of opportunities to prove itself. It has failed at every juncture, my friends, over a course of 30 years at least. But it has been allowed, Israel has been allowed, my friends, to fail by the international community. And particularly, it has to be said, by Western countries, among them, the United Kingdom. These countries have never held Israel accountable. On the contrary, even as Israel has openly and clearly consolidated its occupation with more settlements, greater oppressions of the land's indigenous population, it has been only rewarded. More arms, more deals, more trade, more political and financial and legal support by the world superpower. This has to stop for any chance of a just peace to prevail. You know this. You here tonight know this very well. The call for immediate action is vital, my friends, and it is urgent. Our situation is urgent. And while I understand the relief around the capitals of the world that Netanyahu and Trump, for that matter, is no longer with us, and that Netanyahu is no longer the Israeli prime minister, the new prime minister is cut from the very same cloth. Naftali Bennett has been quite clear, very clear, that is the new Israeli prime minister. There will be no Palestinian state on his watch, he said. There will be no end to settlement expansion on his watch. And actually, these are not words, but deeds. Settlement expansion over the last few months since he took over are at historic rates. And there will be no negotiations with us, he said, with the Palestinian people and leadership on his watch again. How much more overtly anti-peace can you be? So efforts to throw Palestinians out of their homes in Jerusalem continue, like in Sheikh Jarrah and Silwan. Efforts to starve the Palestinian people in Gaza into submission continue. Efforts to consolidate and make irreversible the illegal Israeli settlement presence in occupied West Bank continue. What evidence does the world need presented in order that the world will take action? What evidence? Or should we, as President Abbas wondered in his speech in the United Nations only last month, understand that the world has given up on its own rules, on its own laws, on its own values, on the very framework the world has pushed for, which is the two-state solution? Did the world give up? Apologies for the coughing. If that is so, please say it. Say it now. This leaves us, the Palestinian people, with other options. We cannot be stuck for a long time. We must unstuck ourselves, unchain ourselves. And no matter what happens, it does not change, my friends, the fundamental situation on the ground, which is, as I said before, is one of population parity. even if there is no rights parity in Israeli law, which does not exist. But you cannot have such a segregation and such racist policies between two halves of a population that share the same space of land. So, my friends, I say I am an optimistic, but I am in no way underplaying, if you may, underplaying the obstacles we face. Immense, huge obstacles, I must admit. Most importantly is the inaction of governments around the world. It's really mind-boggling sometimes, this complete inaction. So immediate recognition of the State of Palestine, a ban of settlement products, banning companies working in these settlements, arms embargo are all actions that are within the responsibilities of states that are part of the international system. It's not even something that is demanded. It's a responsibility. And one would hope that as one of the architects of the global rules-based order, the UK would seek to act as a kind of watchdog over that order, this international order, this international system that we built together as nations. One hope that the UK would become a global reference for international law and fair play. And I tell you, there is no other public opinion more oriented towards international equality more than the UK public. And Palestine is a test case and a litmus test for this, because to take a stand for international law in Palestine is apparently controversial. It is becoming controversial. So supporting international law is becoming controversial. And wherever you go and you argue for the upholding of international rules and regulations, provisions and conventions, people argue about the law. But when you argue about the law in any other case, then there is no argument. The law is the law. So as long as the world key countries support for international law in Palestine remains strictly rhetorical, it will always be ineffectual. And this is the case. It's just rhetorical. We hear a lot of statements that we support international law, international resolutions, Israel must heed, but these are words without action. And it is precisely why this is no longer enough. We need action, and we need it now. And we are one tick away, my friends, one tick away from the midnight. And I'm not exaggerating. We know each other, and we have been interacting over the years. I mean, I don't like the ultimatums and the crying wolf, but if you go and visit the occupied territories, you will absolutely notice that, Israel has been busy over a long period of time, so-called peace process, to devour the land and absolutely make irreversibly certain that there will not be a possibility of a state of Palestine. So the old ways of thinking have failed. The old thinking based on some misjudged sense of parity between the parties on the ground is obsolete now. It's obsolete. This was the old way of thinking, that there is some sort of equivalence. So the two sides, two-sidism, and the two sides have to sit on a table and negotiate, putting the wolf with the lamb. This is what happened for 30 years. It is worse. It's even this whole process that we have been at for 30 years is holding us back from achieving peace. It's almost a process designed to prevent the outcome. As you all know, Israel is one of the greatest recipients of international aid and military assistance in the world over the past many decades. It enjoyed firm and almost unquestioning political support from influential allies across the world. Against this, the argument for international law to be implemented is only practical if it is backed by consequences. Otherwise, it's not practical. It has never been backed up by consequences. Indeed, whenever we try to utilize the tools of international law, like the International Criminal Court, the ICC, like the International Court of Justice, like the UN Human Rights Council, we are told to back down by the ostensible supporters of the global rules order, including the UK, by the way. The peace process that the old way of thinking gave rise to, in effect, canceled our rights. That's what happened for all these years. So-called peace process. It has canceled our rights. Our right to self-determination, our right to freedom, our right to protection from Israeli aggression, our right to decent lives and economic prospects, our rights to independence, all our rights have in effect been set aside for the process. So our rights would be achieved once the process has run its course, we were told. And the process has gone on and on and on and on and on. Or to put it more bluntly, we were told to live without our rights for as long as this process was ongoing. Imagine for a second, live without your rights until some indeterminate point in the future. And this is a game, by the way, it's a game. So we call for the peace process to be resumed, and it's a game to keep us without rights. It's a game to delay the inevitable. Imagine if that was asked of you. And my friends, no more. We will not accept this. Enough. We say it from the bottom of our hearts. No one should accept this, not only us. Rights are rights. These are birth rights. We will no longer accept being treated as a lower form of people or humans, not deserving our very basic rights to freedom, to self-determination, to choosing who we want to marry even. You know, Israel intervenes in that. And where we want to live, in our own homeland. I mean, come on. This has gone on for a long time. More than 72 years, 3 years, since at least the Nakba. We are saying now that enough is enough. We ask our supporters around the world, like you, to help us, to help press your leadership to enforce international law, because we still believe in international law. And to wake up to the urgency of the situation. It is absolutely urgent. And by the way, that support is growing. It is growing, my friends. Did you see the protests in May? Of course you did, I'm sure. You were part of it, most likely. The protests span the globe. Palestine is not a local issue anymore. It is a global issue of justice against injustice, of freedom against oppression, equality against apartheid. That is why I remain an optimist. History will judge us all keenly, my friend, very keenly. It will judge you and everyone here kindly because of what you have done and what you continue to be doing. Because you are the ones who took action. Because you are the ones who your voice was absolutely loud and clear only a couple of weeks ago in Brighton. That no. Illegality will have consequences, and we will take action. Yes, there are so many forces against you. We understand, and we are with you. We see how much there is vicious campaign to, attach stigmas to each and every one of you, to blackmail those people with the conscience, to spread fear. We realize that. But what you did in the conference, what you have been doing over the years, and what you continue to be doing is absolutely going to be remembered by us, the Palestinians, and will be a key part of our struggle towards justice and freedom. So allow me, by way of conclusion, to just say on behalf of the Palestinian people and leadership that we thank you for your support. I thank you on behalf of everyone for whom the show of support in May that you did and the show of support at the Labour conference last month in Brighton meant so much to us and is a fuel to our determination to reach our final destination. So thank you very much, my friends.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zomlot. Are you happy to stay with us for another 5 minutes or so just to answer 1 or 2 questions? Okay, I'll open it up to the floor then. Does anyone here have a question for Dr. Zomlot or anyone on? Yeah, so Chris has put her hand up. Chris Easton, who I think you already know Dr. Zomlot. So Chris, yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you. And thank you very much, as usual, Dr. Zomlot. That was very enlightening. And we're very sorry to hear your voice going croaky like that. it must be difficult for someone who speaks as well as you do to have to put up with that. I'm sorry, I can't see very well, and I haven't got a proper question worked out because I'm in a hotel in Oxford. That's my excuse. But I just, sorry about that. I just wanted to ask you general question about your relationship with the Labour Party. You as an official representative of Palestine, do you have a kind of open door with the leadership in the Labour Party because of the Labour Palestine initiative? Just wonder generally if you have a kind of open door there and you speak regularly with the leader of Labour Friends of Palestine, or indeed the leadership of the Labour Party. That was it, really.
Okay, over to you then, Dr. Zomlot.
Thank you, Chris. I do have very good relations with the Labour leadership, be it Friends of Palestine, be it the Shadow Minister for the Middle East, Wayne David, be it the Shadow Foreign Secretary, our good friend Lisa Nandy, or even be it the leader of the party, Sir Keir Starmer, whom I met, by the way, before the conference. So there is an open door policy, and there is a very good sort of dialogue going on. Having said that, we noticed that the leadership has shifted from where the previous leaderships of the Labour Party has been, and we continue to engage them and to say that we believe the Labour Party is a democratic party, and therefore it has to reflect the real opinion, position, democratic voting of the base. And of late, I'm sure, Chris, you have been following, there has been a change, and we hope that democracy will prevail, and we hope that the leadership will be as close as possible to the base and not to be fearful of any campaigns. And because, we realize the significance of uprooting anti-Semitism. It's very significant, and this is a plague that must be uprooted immediately. But by the same token, we must, those who will physically uproot anti-Semitism are the very same principled people who will uproot Israel's expansion, the occupation and the colonization. It's not two different fights, it's the very same fight. So we say to the leadership here is that we have to absolutely be clear about our fight against any form of bigotry and racism, whatever it is. And wherever it is, and we Palestinians believe that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere, and we are in solidarity with the Jewish people who are suffering and suffered from oppression all these years. But we also don't appreciate those who want to deliberately conflate between our fight for liberty and our fight for rights and other issues. So. To be very transparent with you, still, we think there is a lot to be done with this leadership. There is a lot to be done with this leadership, and there is a long way to go in their calculations. And you've seen the immediate rejection of the motion that was passed in the Labour conference. And so far, I haven't heard the new leader repeating and restating the decisions by the conference, like the immediate recognition of the State of Palestine. I haven't heard him saying so. I haven't heard him mentioning anything about the settlements and the illegality of their products. Even during the confrontations and the atrocities of May, when the British streets were filled with people and with Labour supporters and Labour members, we haven't heard any substantial statements. So more engagement, more pressure from the base, more of these meetings, and more open door policy for us to keep talking to them. Hopefully this gap will be bridged.